Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we will be covering your class 12 Sociology chapter 5 Change and Development in Industrial Society, and the main topic is working conditions. So see, we all want power, a solid house, clothes, other goods, but we should remember that these come to us because someone is working to produce them, often in a very bad working conditions. देखो हर एक चीज़ जो हम कंज्यूम करते हैं, चाहे वो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी हो, चाहे वो क्लोथ्स हो, घर हो, all of these things are produced by whom? These are produced by workers. And behind these comforts that we are consuming, workers often face harsh, unsafe, and exhausting conditions to produce the items that we are using. For example, we all use electricity. Where is this electricity produced? In the coal mines. Are the coal mines safe to work upon? Whether workers risk accidents? No, right? So the government has passed a number of laws to regulate working conditions to protect the workers. India has labor laws which ensures what all things. They specifically mention the hours of work, कितने घंटे तक काम करना है, वीकली बेसिस पे, डेली बेसिस पे, wages, safety. Because without these, the exploitation would be worse. Now let us take an example of mining where a number of people are employed. We are focusing on mining as an example industry. Just coal mines in India, if we talk about is it has about 5.5 lakh workers. Okay, employ 5.5 lakh workers, which is a very large workforce. So the Mines Act of 1952, which has now been included in the Occupational Safety, Health and Working Condition Code 2020, specifies the maximum number of hours a person can be made to work in a week, the need to pay overtime for any extra hours worked, and safety rules. Okay, so the laws which are existing, what do they say? They are limiting to weekly hours. They are specifying कि भाई एक इंसान जो है एक हफ्ते में मैक्सिमम कितना काम करेगा, and if he is working overtime, so what provision you have to pay him extra for that extra working time, plus the safety rules are made compulsory. This Mines Act of 1952, it is now merged in Occupational Safety, Health and Working Condition Code 2020. So if a law allows maximum 48 hours per week, a miner, he cannot be forced to do 60 hours without overtime pay. So you understand this thing? These rules may be followed in big companies but not in smaller mines and quarries. In reality, compliance depends on size. Large companies, for example Coal India, they may follow laws, but the small private mines or quarries often ignore them. Moreover, subcontracting is widespread. So basically, instead of hiring directly, companies are using what? Contractors. Okay, and these contractors, they do not maintain proper register of workers, so they avoid the responsibility for any accidents and benefits. Okay, so instead of hiring directly, they are assigning contractors, and then these contractors, they do not officially register workers, so the workers, they remain invisible. There is no proof of employment. The result is that there is no compensation for accidents given to them for any health benefits. So for example, if a miner dies in an unregistered job, the family may not get insurance. After mining has been finished in an area, the company is supposed to cover up the open holes and restore the area to its earlier condition, but they don't do this. Usually what happens, देखो, law requires rehabilitation. मतलब आपने जब वो पूरा एरिया dig up किया है, so you're also required that you fill the pits and you restore the land. But ये चीज़ often it is ignored. तो जो भी because क्यों उन्हें fill करना है, क्योंकि जो abandoned pits होते हैं, they are very dangerous for the villagers, for animals and for the environment as well. अब हम बात करते हैं अंडरग्राउंड माइंस की. तो जो अंडरग्राउंड माइंस हैं, दे फेस वेरी डेंजरस कंडीशंस, जैसे फ्लडिंग ड्यू टू फ्लडिंग, फायर, कोलैप्स ऑफ रूफ्स एंड साइड्स, एमिशन गैसेस एंड वेंटिलेशन फेलियर्स. तो अंडरग्राउंड माइनिंग के डेंजर्स क्या है? फ्लडिंग इनसाइड टनल्स, रूफ कोलैप्स और ट्रैप्स, टॉक्सिक गैसेस, लैक ऑफ ऑक्सीजन, वेंटिलेशन, ब्रेकडाउन, ऑल ऑफ दीज थिंग्स, एंड मेनी वर्कर्स डेवलप ब्रीथिंग प्रॉब्लम्स, डिजीजेस जैसे कि ट्यूबरकुलोसिस एंड सिलिकोसिस. ठीक है, ट्यूबरकुलोसिस इज अ लंग इन्फेक्शन फ्रॉम पुअर एयर एंड डस्ट, एंड सिलिकोसिस इज कॉज्ड बाय इनहेलिंग फाइन सिलिका डस्ट विच permanently damages your lung. Those working in overground mines, तो यहाँ पे हमने अंडरग्राउंड माइंस की बात करी, हम ओवरग्राउंड माइंस की बात कर रहे हैं. They have to work in both hot sun and rain, and they face injuries due to mine blasting, falling objects, etc. The rate of mining accidents in India is very high compared to other countries. सर्फेस वर्कर्स जो होते हैं या फिर ओवरग्राउंड माइंस जो होती है, वहाँ पे वर्कर्स आर एक्सपोज टू एक्सट्रीम वेदर कंडीशंस. हीट स्ट्रोक हो गई, रेन हो गई, डिजीजेज हो गए, एवरीथिंग. देयर आर एक्सप्लोजन्स फ्रॉम ब्लास्टिंग, या फिर इंजरीज भी हो सकती है ड्यू टू फॉलिंग रॉक्स या मशीन्स. और India has a very poor safety records in mining if we compare it to the developed countries like US and Australia. Then we're talking about the migrant workers. So what happens that in many industries the workers are migrants. Beyond mines, other industries also employ migrant workers who are moving away from the villages. For example, the fish processing plants along the coastline employ mostly single young women from Tamil Nadu, Karnataka and Kerala. यहाँ पे एग्जाम्पल इंडस्ट्री जो है वो फ़िश प्रोसेसिंग प्लांट्स हैं जो कि यूजुअली एक्सपोर्ट मार्केट्स के लिए होती है. यहाँ पे ये किसको एम्प्लॉय करते हैं? वुमेन फ्रॉम साउथ इंडियन स्टेट्स, यंग वुमेन फ्रॉम साउथ इंडियन स्टेट्स. 10-12 of them are housed in small rooms, and sometimes one shift has to make way for another. 12 women, they're cramped in just one single small room. This is a harsh living condition that they're facing. So this is shared accommodation, and when one shifts, others sleep. तो वो shift वाला system यहाँ पर होता है. Young women are seen as submissive workers because employers prefer young women क्योंकि उनको लगता है कि ये काफ़ी डिसिप्लिन्ड होते हैं. They feel that they're less likely to protest or demand higher wages. Many men also migrate singly, either unmarried or leaving their families. तो मेल माइग्रेंट्स भी होते हैं जो या तो अकेले आते हैं फिर अपनी फैमिलीज़ को छोड़ कर आते हैं. और काफ़ी जो माइग्रेंट्स होते हैं, they have little time to socialize, and whatever little time and money they can spend is with other migrant workers. तो सोशल आइसोलेशन हमें देखने को मिला है जहाँ पे वर्कर्स के पास कोई टाइम ही नहीं है या उनके पास अपने वर्क के सिवा कोई बाहर अपनी कोई भी सोशल लाइफ नहीं है. उनकी इनकम बहुत छोटी होती है और जो भी इनकम वो होती है, जो भी मस्ती मजाक वो करते हैं, वो अपने माइग्रेंट ग्रुप्स के साथ ही करते हैं. फ्रॉम अ नेशन ऑफ interfering joint families, nature of work in a globalized economy is taking people in the direction of loneliness and vulnerability. Yet for many young women it also represents some independence and economic autonomy. तो हमें देखने को मिला है पहले जॉइंट फैमिली सोशल सपोर्ट दे देती थी पर कंट्रोल भी करती थी, लेकिन अब ग्लोबलाइजेशन की वजह से लोनलीनेस, आइसोलेशन, इनसिक्योरिटी ये सब देखने को मिला है. मेरा ऑन द अदर साइड अगर हम वुमेन की बात करें तो वुमेन को इंडिपेंडेंस, फाइनेंशियल ऑटोनॉमी ये भी चीज़ दे रहा है, एंड दे आर नॉट टोटली डिपेंडेंट ऑन फैमिली. So according to these laws, their weekly hours were limited, right? Then if you're asking the worker to do overtime, then you also have to pay for the extra hours work, and the provisions for safety rules. All of these things we saw in this particular law, but we also saw that these are also ignored in the small mines and quarries. Then there is a contract system or the subcontracting, which we say, which is very common, and here the companies do not hire the workers directly, instead they appoint an agent to do so. And these contractors, they do not register the workers officially, so no benefits, no accident cover, insurance, compensation is given to the workers and the family. Also, apart from this, there is an environmental neglect that we see. The abandoned pits, they are not filled, the area, it is not restored. Then we saw the dangers in the underground mines and in the overground mines. In underground we saw flooding, roof collapses, toxic gases, tuberculosis, silicosis, all of these things. In overground we saw sun rain exposure, blasts, falling rocks, etc. And then we also noted that there are high accident rate in India versus other countries. Then we saw the case of migrant workers. Here we took the example of what? The fish processing plants. fish processing plants in Tamil Nadu, which is there in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala. So the young women are employed here. Yes, of course, there are industries who are dependent on migrants, and this is one of such example. Here, if we talk about the working conditions, so there are 12 workers who are crammed in just one small room, and there a shift-based living happens. Women, they are considered submissive and disciplined. Men, they migrate alone. The families are left behind, and the impact of all of this is loneliness and vulnerability. For women, if we see, then they attain financial independence, and they attain independence and economic autonomy. So the case of women also we saw. That is it for this particular topic, and with that is it for this video. Thank you.